Hi everyone, welcome to another video. So I'm finally getting around to doing looks using the Lightworks 5. I know it's been a long time coming. If you haven't seen the interior already, here's what it looks like. Definitely very intriguing collection of colors. For the first look, I really wanted to do something using the shade Powerful, which automatically struck me as one of the more unique shades in this palette and one of the main reasons I wanted to go for it. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna start off with some mattes. I'm just gonna start framing the look with mattes just a little bit. So I'm going to be using the Beautopsy palette. I haven't actually used this in a really long time. I know, embarrassing. So I'm gonna use a combination of Love Kills and Intrafatum. I wonder what's going on with Hindash Beauty because I still really want Boy Tears and it's still out of stock on Beautylish. So I really hope that his brand isn't like go away anytime soon because I don't want it to go away before I've gotten a chance to get my hands on Boy Tears. And for my editing, my in-post, I'm probably gonna zoom through most of this because I'm not really like, the point of this palette is for me to focus on the Danessa Myricks shades. So for the portion where I'm working with any mattes from other palettes, I'm definitely just going to kind of make the editing on those pretty brief. Alright, so I'm gonna use the Intrafatum shade. This is going to be the primary shade that I want to use for depth. As you can see, I'm leaving behind blank spaces for Powerful to go into later. Okay, so I'm gonna go into the shade Powerful now, which is right here. I will definitely revisit the mattes if I think I need to, because I probably will end up needing to. I just wanted to keep the layer light for now. So I'm gonna use my finger. It seems really, really smooth, super, super dark. It does feel a little bit thick on my eyelids. I might have put too thick of a layer down, but you can see it is laying down very evenly. Definitely has that really strong black base to it. Yeah, I feel like when I blink I can kind of feel it a little bit, so I might have been a little bit too over enthusiastic there, but it is really, really pretty. I do really like it, and I definitely can see that black and red shift. So I'm going to go ahead and start trying to intensify the mattes a little bit. I don't want it to look super muddy. Like you see, I feel like I'm screwing things up already. I think adding a little more red may actually help as opposed to adding more black. I'm like so stressed out right now, so I think my mind might be wandering a little bit, which is why I'm not able to focus on the blending as much as I usually would be able to. That's looking better. Definitely not my best work, but I think that's as good as it's gonna get. I'm just gonna be a little bit easier on myself today. Need to move on to the lower lash line. So I'm going to try the shade Invincible. It was marketed as having like 5, 6, 7 different textures, but ultimately a lot of the shimmer textures being marketed as like these different textures all kind of end up looking pretty similar. So I didn't really read too much into that. I feel like a lot of like that to me felt just like straight marketing. But this one definitely did say it had a different finish, and you can tell by looking in the pan. This one was called a Molten Metal, and it is actually the only molten metal in this palette, and you could tell just by looking at the pan that you can tell it has a thicker, flakier texture. You can see the individual flakes and chunks. Okay, so it's not sticking well on the lower lash line because my lower lash line is kind of mattified, so I definitely think this would be a shade that benefits from a glitter glue. However, on my inner corner, which had the eye primer down and nothing else put down on top of it, you can see it stuck really, really well. I was able to get almost a pressed glitter effect, but this shade obviously has no plastic glitter in it. I'm gonna go into Unstoppable, and I'm gonna use that across my lower lash line, just like, you know, across this area. And if I decide I want to use Invincible on my lower lash line, I will dab on a little bit of glitter glue. But I'm just going to use this shade first. I want to see how this shade works without a glitter glue. Because I used tan lines to blend everything out, my lower lash line is quite mattified. Yeah, so you can see it's not sticking down as well as it could otherwise. So I think if I used maybe like some kind of like silicone applicator or some kind of foam tip applicator, I might get more payoff, but definitely This is not going to be a palette you can use very well over a lot of layers of matte shadow. Okay, yeah, a foam applicator does work, so that's good to know. And then I am going to use that same foam applicator, see if I can put a little bit more Unstoppable on. And I feel like if I take a little bit of Unstoppable, I might be able to use that to smooth out the transition from powerful into the mattes. So I'm just going to take a little bit on my finger, like just this much, and just kind of tap it over so it just kind of hides any sort of messiness. I think that works. And then I do want to try taking a little bit of Protected. It seems like it's like one of those like more iridescent shades. I'm gonna take it like right. I'm kind of more under like as a brow highlighter almost. It's almost like it's a continuation of Invincible, just with a different shade. Okay, so that is gonna be my eye look. I really like it. Part of me wants to put like just a little bit more powerful on, just to make sure it's there, but I also don't want to like overload my eyelid. But yeah, this is what my first eye look is looking like. It's a little bit messy in terms of the blending, so I do apologize. I'm gonna finish off the rest of my makeup off camera. I'll be back and I will just round up this look and move on to the next look. Okay, so this is going to be my finished makeup look. As you can see, I just decided to go with red everything for just kind of a monochromatic makeup look to match with my eyeshadow. I should have pulled my eyeliner out more and made it thicker, but I was kind of being a chicken, so the eyeliner just kind of ends up being more distracting than anything. I was really trying to emphasize that my eyeshadow was a little bit more upturned and that it was more intense, but it didn't really end up working, so we'll just ignore that. I do have false lashes on, but I think I probably could have gone for a slightly thicker pair volume-wise speaking, because they don't really show up very well, and so you kind of can be distracted by my natural lashes just hanging out all straight because I was too lazy to curl them, which is probably not a good thing. I did put the black eyeliner on the inner corners for the added definition. So for my blush, I have the Rose Ink blush in the shade Foxglove. Underneath that, I have the Makeup by Mario Soft Sculpt Skin Enhancer in Light, which I may see if my sister will go for this first. And then for my highlighter, I used the Givenchy highlighter in the shade 10 Organza. This one it's a limited edition highlighter. It seems like it was actually released several years back and it got brought back this year. And it is, as you can see, it is actually really pretty. You can see I have some serious stress hives that have been on my face, on the right side of my face, that are right where my highlighter usually goes. For a highlighter, you'd think it would have emphasized these hives way more, but it's actually quite flattering, all things considered. And then for my lips, I have two products. I got lazy and skipped the lip liner, so I used the S-Bar, the Sleek, in the shade Eve. You can see it looks like this, really pretty. So I used that as a base, and then I was like, you know, this is a little bit light, a little bit desaturated for what I'm going for. I still do need a little bit extra oomph to my look, so I added the Zero Velvet tint in the shade Spicy Nut, which is this dark shade right here. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just end this look here. Really beautiful. I do love how the shade Powerful looks. It is so unique. I'll move on to look number 2 and say hi to Mochi. Hi everyone, I'm back to do look number 2. I kind of wanted to see if I could do a look using one of my Pat McGrath shadows. I actually haven't gotten around to using these yet, despite having them for quite a while now. If you hear it in the background, Melody is screaming because she's in isolation. She has to be quarantined. She's really upset, and I'm miserable, she's miserable, the whole place is miserable, so don't mind her. I feel really bad for her, but I don't really have a choice right now. So I'm going to start off with the Pat McGrath Platinum Bronze shadow. This could go really badly or this could go really well. I've literally never used this before, so I'm just going to start off with a very thin layer. I'm not doing this look to review these Pat McGrath shades though, so I'm not going to talk too much about them. I'm just going to use this as like a base shade. If I use my finger, it actually is a lot more glittery than I was expecting. I think it'll be fine. We'll work with it. I'm going to use the Sinful Echoes palette. I want to go into the shade Muck It Up, which is right here. And I'm going to use this to add some depth. A video with this will come eventually. I totally didn't just like apply it so badly on the left eye. Okay, so here is Fearless. I think this will be more of a topper shade. This definitely gives me Phoenix vibes. Here is Loved, much more kind of subdued. And then here's Healed, kind of a traditional black-based purple multi-chrome. Here is Fierce. This definitely reminds me of like Flame Blown from Cleona. I'm going to actually go ahead and use Fierce, and then I'll use Love. I'll use this Isum W28. These shades are all definitely finger shades. I just don't feel like using my finger for this. So you can see with the brush, I'm not getting a fully opaque smooth layer. So I'm just going to use my finger now to smooth it out. So now I'm going to go into Love, and I'm just going to use this over top of that. This shade is called a Silk Pressed Shifter. The shimmers are a lot more fine as opposed to it being thicker and flakier. This is not going to be my inner corner shade though. I think I'm going to go ahead and use Centered on the lower lash line. Centered seems like a lighter colored topper. Yeah, something like that. I'm just gonna let the lower lash line be pretty bare today. This shade Centered does, as you can see, have those individual kind of flaky particles. The whole upper row is just like toppers of varying textures. And then lastly, I'm going to take Evolving, and I want to put this on the inner corner. It is green, but I think it'll have a really fun contrast with the rest of the look. And there are green shifts in the shade Fierce. I am getting some fallout, but it's nothing terribly dramatic or awful. Okay, so lastly, I am going to go back into that Sinful Echoes palette because I do want to add some darkness just a little bit more. So I'm going to go into Muck It Up, and I'm going to slide this on the outer corner of the lower lash line. Just a little bit. And then I am going to add more up here until I think I have enough. I do think my blending could have used some help, but the main focus is on the very sparkly eyelid that I gave myself, so I'm just gonna roll with that. Now I am starting to notice some of the eyeshadow is kind of settling into some of my lines, which probably something I can probably just attribute to the fact that I had no eye primer underneath. So but yeah, I think you can see, especially on this eye, how the shadow is kind of shifting because I applied it with a brush and it kind of is already starting to shift a little bit. So definitely I should have used some kind of eye primer and applied it with my finger, because applying it with a brush it kind of skipped around and was uneven. So with that being said, I'm going to go off camera, finish off my makeup, and I'll be right back. Okay, so this is going to be my finished look. I used Doe Fairy Dust, I believe. They are much longer than I usually would go for sure, but when you have an eyeshadow look as intense as this, you can see that even though they are wispy, they are long enough that they show. That is the eyelash I have on. I did put on a little bit of eyeliner using my Clio Extreme Gel Presso liner, and I also put it on the inner corners as well, and then I put on some lower lash mascara. So that is really all that I did for the eyes there. I kind of feel like they look a little bit muddy, like I'm kind of getting like Izumaya industrial flashbacks with this, and I wonder if that's just because of the fact that I applied the shade with a brush instead of a finger, so I just feel like maybe the eyeshadow doesn't look as intense as it could have. To very quickly go over what's on the rest of my face, I recently got my Phytosurgeon sale order finally arrived. I got a very tiny Phytosurgeon's order. I really only just was primarily chasing the bronzer, so I got the bronzer in the shade 2 Rosy Daybreak, and here is what it looks like. And then I used my Sweet Cheeks Coralicious blush all over my cheeks, mostly focusing it under my eyeshadow. For highlighter, I used the Organza Prism highlighter from Givenchy. I felt like the gold and pink tones matched with the rest of the eyeshadow again. There's no reason to go pull for anything else. I'm just thoroughly enjoying using this right now. I love how it doesn't emphasize any of my texture at all. I think that is just crazy, especially because you can still see that I'm still healing from the outbreak of hives I had right over here. Really liking that. And then for my nose bridge and for my chin, I used Tom Ford Rose Iris A. Might as well get my money's worth out of it, right? And then for my lips, I overline my lips with the Roman lip liner. I might have gone a little bit crazy, but whatever. And then I wanted to test out the shade New Black from the 2/4 lip changer. It's a little bit more sheer than I was expecting, so I still don't think this is the perfect blackened, balmy lip, kind of glassy lip thing I'm going for. It's still too sheer for my liking, so this isn't what I was looking for, but it's definitely super, super pretty, and I can see using this to like mute other shades. And yeah, so I'm gonna finish up this look portion of the video, however you want to say it. I'll finish this off right here, and in a few seconds you will see look number 3. Hi everyone, I'm gonna be doing look number 3. So I would like to do a look today that centers around the shade Abundant. It's this one right here. As you can see, it's green. It also kind of has a bit of a blue flip as well, so I think it'll be really exciting to try. And I'm going to be pairing it with mattes from the Primal palette, which I've only used a handful of times, so I've not even used every single shade. I know this palette is no longer available, but I'm gonna go ahead and use the greens in here. So I'm gonna use this green column, mostly using this very dark green matte, and if I need to go into the black, I will. And then I'll just quickly shove that in the lower lash line. So I'm just going to go straight into Abundant, and I'm going to use my finger. It says that this is a whipped powder shifter, so, you know, shifter is in the name. This is meant to have quite some shift to it, so yeah, we'll see how it actually looks. It does have a bit of a dark base to it, but it's not like an entirely black base. It's not like jeweled multi-chrome level dark. It does feel a little bit oily to the touch. Here in the mirror, you can see the blue. Okay, I'm going to layer Evolving on top of that, I think. Evolving is in the top row, more of like a topper shade. I do really like the top row. I've been pulling into the top row for other looks unrelated to this palette a lot more often than I thought I would. The top row initially was kind of the least exciting part to me, but now that I've used it a lot, I'm like, actually I like the top row a lot. Kind of reminds me of like a souped up version of the Blend Bunny Noctilucent palette. I do feel like the Abundant shade that I used, it's not like a perfectly even layer. Like, it's not enough to make me be disappointed, but I definitely do notice I feel like this shade isn't quite like super even Steven. Because like you can even tell just like on my finger, it does have a lot more texture to it. Like you can see in the pan there's like thicker chunks and flakes to it than a Clionadh multi-chrome, so it's not meant to be like super smooth, but I just feel like sometimes that can cause it to look a little uneven. I'm just gonna apply one more layer. I'm going to use the Shiseido Kajal Ink Artist in Birodo Green. This shade is a very, very dark green because it's also meant to double as an eyeliner. Look. So I'm going to, just because it's paired with Abundant as a split pan, I'm very kind of curious to see what'll happen. I'm going to take Inspiring on the lower lash line, and maybe I might put this on the inner corner too if I think it'll work. I'm not sure how well this will go because it is more of a silver, but it was stuck right next to Abundant. This does seem to be a little bit more firmly pressed, so it's not picking up as well with a brush. I'm gonna go into Invincible. I think I've already used this before on the inner corner, but because I already used so much silver, I'm just gonna use it again. This one is much more kind of loose and flaky. I'm curious to see what will happen if I take Fearless. This reminds me of like Danessa Myricks' take on Terra Moon's Phoenix. And so I will go ahead and show my mirror so you guys can see. In the mirror you can see, and also now that the mirror is reflecting the light, you can see the different shifts in my eye look. I feel like I'm kind of running into a similar issue I did with Industrial, where maybe I'm getting a little too aggressive with putting too many shades on my eyelid and my looks are kind of turning out muddy. I feel like my second look in particular, the one I did right before this, looked a little bit muddy, kind of gave me the, like I had a same issue like with Industrial. I wasn't super happy with it, and I feel like I'm kind of starting to do that to myself again. I will try to not let that happen, but no guarantees. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish off the rest of my face of makeup off camera, and then I'll be back to discuss this final look. Okay, so this is going to be my finished look. Please ignore my absolutely terrible hair. It is just super frizzy. I have not had time to do anything relevant to it at all. As you can see, very sparkly. Now that I'm zoomed out, you can also definitely see the catches, the flash of light that comes from Fearless. So just a really fun accent shade to add to change the whole look. I definitely overloaded my lips with a lot of product, so if it's getting all over my teeth, I do apologize. I thought I would try something and it totally didn't work, so then I had to kind of cover it up. But let me just quickly go over what is on the rest of my face. So after I put on my false lashes and everything, I don't have any eyeliner on today. I probably could have done with some inner corner liner, but I just straight up forgot. For my bronzer, I'm still testing out the Phytosurgence bronzer. And then for blush, I used the 3CE Velvet Liquid Blush in the shade Classic Mood. I absolutely love this formula. It is so matte, but it is so easy to blend. I wish there were more matte liquid blushes on the market. I just love how this looks on me, so that's what I used. And then on top of that, I used the Space Age Prophecy highlighter. This does not see a lot of use from me, and I'd love to start remembering to use it more often. I thought it would be a perfect highlighter to use. And then for lips, I used a lip liner, of course. And then I thought I would try, I saw Morgan Turner do this, so I thought I would try using one of the dewy liquid blushes from Rare Beauty on the lips. I don't recommend it. It shows all the dead skin and it emphasizes all the lines. It does not sit well on the lips. Definitely it was designed as a cheek product in mind. It does not flatter lip skin very well in my opinion, but I thought it was worth a try because the color, just if this color was a lipstick, it would be a really pretty lipstick, you know what I mean? So I topped it off with the Peri Para gloss in the shade 06. Which, as you can see, it looks very dark in the tube, but it's actually surprisingly sheer, so it toned down my lips and kind of smoothed over all of that texture emphasis. Did make my lips a little bit slippy slidey though, so that's why it kind of got all over my teeth for a second, so apologies for that. But this is going to be look number 3 using Lightworks 5. Really pretty. I do really like how it turned out. Yeah, hope you guys are enjoying this video so far, and on to the next look. Okay, hi, I'm back for look number 4. So I'm going to be using my Florasis palette. This is in the color 02. I'm going to use the neutrals in here. My eyelids, as you can see, are very well hydrated. I actually don't have eye primer on because I put a little too much Bobbi Brown eye base on them, and then I sprayed with setting spray and stuff, so I think my eyelids actually need to be toned down a little bit, or else the eyeshadow might slip and slide. The shade is practically identical to the color of my eyelid, so it'll be a good foundation shade. And one thing that's very common with Asian formulations of matte eyeshadows is they tend to have a mattifying effect on your eyelids, so they can really blur and smooth your eyelid. However, definitely be careful if you have dry eyelids about layering too much of these at once, because since they are mattifying, you will theoretically eventually reach a point where you can't actually get any more to stick to your eyelids, so just kind of be careful of that. I've definitely had that happen to me before. And then I'm going to also just use this widely on the lower lash line. One of the shades in here that really I've been wanting to try is this duochrome here. I think the shade Brave on top will be really interesting. It does pick up nicely on a brush, which is good. Okay, so this is going to be kind of the foundation of the look so far. So I'm going to take the darkest brown and I'm just going to quickly put this on the outer corner of my lower lash line. Otherwise, the ends of my eyes look kind of empty. I'm gonna try putting on Brave without a tacky base because my eyelid still does feel like it can take more eyeshadow. So I'm just going to use my finger. Because I've been cleaning so much, I've had to cut my nails down because otherwise I would just keep banging my nails on everything and I'm going to hurt myself because I already tore one nail really bad and I don't want to tear any more. But here's the shade Brave. So it looks like a silvery white in the pan, but on my finger you can actually see it has a really pretty icy shift. You can see here how there's actually a purple element to it as well. So it definitely gives off icy Aurora Borealis kind of a situation. So I'm going to take this and just basically use this across my eye look. In and of itself, it has a very translucent base. This is actually my first time in a very long time putting a transformer down over a more subtle, subdued, lighter look, and I definitely need to do this more often because I feel like I can really see and appreciate the power of these kinds of shades way more when the look underneath is not so loud. I'm gonna go in to Protected and I'm going to use that on my inner corner, I think is what I'll do. Okay, and then I think I'm gonna go for Brave on the lower lash line too. Even just like scattered like this, it is so pretty. So here you can see the purple and that is present inside the shade Brave. So I hope that kind of helped you guys see what the shade looks like because I'm seeing way more of the shift in person than the camera is going to pick up obviously. Brave is a really pretty shade. This I think is one of my favorite shades in the palette so far. Okay, so I am actually going to go ahead and I think I'm gonna put this palette down. I'm gonna go back into the Florasis palette and take more of that blue brown shade, but I'm gonna take out my finger. Here you can see how smooth and satin the finish is, and I'm just going to use it to add just a little bit of extra depth closest to my lash line. So I'm gonna go into the Nabla Cupid's arrow in the shade 2. And then lastly, I'm going to try doing something that I'm not very good at doing yet, but I want to try because I think this look really could benefit from it, is I'm going to take this Cupid's arrow and just run it across the outer corner of my lower lash line. It really can make your eyes look so much bigger, but I'm not good at it yet. See, here I kind of brought it too far. It looks like it connects to the upper eyeliner and now it just looks like it's kind of closing off my eye. So I'm gonna take a little bit of face powder. I look very unbalanced, so I'm gonna correct that. This is going to be the finished look, so quick and easy and simple, but also such a statement. I actually am surprised at how much I like this, and I definitely want to do looks like this more often. I will go ahead and finish off my lashes off camera, finish off my face of makeup, and then I'll be back with my full face of makeup. We can discuss it. Okay, so this is going to be my finished look. I do like it a lot more than the last one. I actually think this is my favorite look so far, especially because it's something that I haven't really done before or I've done so infrequently. As you can see with my lashes on, the eyeliner suddenly looks a bazillion times better, so I have to angle my eyeliner differently. And if I know I'm just doing mascara, I do my eyeliner differently. So as you can see, once the lashes are on and it pushes up the outer parts of my monolids, which otherwise are kind of droopy, the eyeliner suddenly looks way better. So that's what this is. I used the Makeup by Mario Bronzing Balm in light medium on the perimeters of my face. I did end up giving light to my sister. I'll see if she likes it. If she doesn't like it, she'll probably just give it back to me, which is completely fine. And then for my blush, I just wanted to apply a light layer of blush in a pretty wide area, just like wrapping around my cheeks, a very common position for me personally. And so for that, I went with the Clinique Nude Pop. Definitely one of my more heavily used shades. It just kind of goes well with anything. Anytime my eyeshadow starts tipping into warm territory, if I don't know what to use, I can pull for Clinique Nude Pop and it just looks really, really good. As you can see, it is quite subtle, so frequently I'll pair this with a darker blush, but for today, I just kind of wanted it to be as is. I also did brighten up the center of my face a little bit with some extra lavender powder because I was trying a new foundation shade and I thought I was Tom Ford 0.3. You guys, I totally thought I was, but it's a little too dark for me and now I'm sad. This is that really rare kind of unicorn powder from Suku. Apparently it sold out really, really quickly, but I used that to brighten things up and counteract that foundation. Like 0.3 is like the third lightest shade in the range and I'm usually not the lightest shade, like I'm not that pale, so I thought 0.3 would be fine and I was like, why is this shade so dark? And then for highlighter, I used Enlighten from the Noctilucent palette. It's really hard for me to show. Like, I have to turn the lighting really far down for you to actually see the shades, but it's like, as you can see on my cheeks, it's kind of like a green gold highlighter. I use a very tiny amount, matches with the theme of my eyeshadow really well. And then I'm super excited. I actually finally got a new lip collection from Romand like on time, because they were like $5 each on YesStyle during Black Friday. So I got the 3 shades that were available within 24 hours. The 4th shade was a like ship within 21 to 30 days situation, so I'll get that separately with another order where I'm not in a hurry. So the shade I'm using today is the Glasting Water Tint in 15 Nudie Sundown. I was totally not expecting them to expand their range of Glasting Water Tints. I thought that they were just basically going to be quietly discontinuing this range, but no, they're not, which is great because these are really pretty and I like it. So that's what I used. Just that, nothing else. So very excited to have these 3. The only one I don't have is the mauve one. I have the other 3. And I did get some of the new balms as well. I think I got like 2 new shades, I think is what I did, but that's this look. So that is look number 4. So yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying this so far, and we'll move on to the last and final 5th look. Okay, I'm back to do the 5th and final look with this palette. So I am going to try and use the shade Strong, and I'm going to use that maybe without blue mattes, and I will see where this goes. No guarantees that it'll turn out looking good, but I thought maybe if I paired it with purple, because I haven't done purple in a while, that might work. Kind of scared, but we'll see. For that, I'm going to use a palette that you probably are going to be like, oh, I forgot that that even existed, which is fine because that probably is my reaction too. I'm going to be using the Glamlight Wine palette. I believe this is now discontinued, but it was on sale. There are a lot of things I want from Glamlight. I just cannot currently accept the long shipping lead times and the terrible / complete lack thereof customer service, so I haven't bought anything from them in a while. I just kind of pick up their palettes as I see them drop at TJ Maxx, I'll be honest. These are honestly pretty nice purples, and the purples in here also aren't too red based, so that's why I did elect to get this back in the day. It was kind of uncommon back in those days when purple was trending for a minute. It was still more common for the purples to be more red based purples as opposed to blue based purples. And then I'm just going to go ahead and take a lighter purple, and I'm going to use that to blend everything out. And I'm also going to put this over top of where I intend to place the shimmer. So I'm just going to leave this like this for now, and I'm going to go ahead and go straight into Strong. It does say on the sheet that it is a silk press shifter, so it definitely does feel quite smooth. Here, I think you can see on the mirror, definitely goes on much more smooth, which is good because that way it can go on without looking like it's patchy. Transfers pretty well off my finger, there's not too much left. I'm going to try using a brush because I kind of just want to be a little bit more precise. It seems to pick up pretty well on a stiff packing brush. Oh yeah, this is a good brush. This is definitely a good shade for a brush or a finger, which is great. And I'm gonna have an inner corner shade for this shade to blend into, don't worry. I'll take a little bit more on my finger just for a final layer. This also does feel quite thin, so even though I'm layering on a lot, I'm not really feeling it when I blink, which is also really great. Okay, that is really pretty. I do really like it, so I'm now gonna go into Resilient on the inner corner. This, I think, should complement pretty well because it just looks like one of those white to blue shades. It does pick up well on a brush, but it does seem to not want to settle onto my skin too much. I don't really have too much eye primer on today. I just have a little bit of the Suku one because my current favorite eye primers have all been packed. I just realized I haven't even begun to touch the lower lash line yet. That's kind of awkward, but it'll get done. Okay, and this transition here is a little bit jarring. There is a pretty deep, almost borderline indigo blue in here. I'm gonna use that. Do you see how that's just helping just a little bit? I do think I need to introduce a blue matte at the top of the look, so I'm just going into another random palette that has a blue matte of some kind, and I'm going to put it right here, and hopefully that helps. It's either that or I'm gonna look like I have a massive bruise. It's one or the other, right? I'm just feeling like the purple is just still too pulled in. I'm not sure how to go about fixing that, but I'm gonna just see if I can blend out the purple a little bit more. Yeah, I just put on more purple and then I tried to diffuse it out a little bit. I think I do want to go in with one more shade. I kind of want to go into a little bit of Protected. This is the one that kind of shifts, like, kind of like, it's like a white with a purple pink shift. Kind of looks like that. And the reason for that is because I think it'll help go from the blue to the purple. So I'm just going to tuck it right here where my brow arches. Yeah, like that. That's good. So you can see now that that color transition is kind of hidden underneath that, which is cool. And then I'm kind of want to do like a pop of color. So I'm going to take Radiant, which I haven't actually used yet, and I'm going to use this on the lower lash line. I think it'll look interesting on top of the purple. And then, of course, I do need to put Resilient on the innermost corner of everything because otherwise there's like two colors clashing. That is going to be my finished eye look. Really, really pretty, blue and purple. So I do really like how all of that pulled together. So with that being said, I'm going to finish off everything and then I'll be back to discuss the final look and the final palette for all the shades I was able to use in this video. Okay, so this is going to be my final look. As you can see, I put on some false lashes. I ended up packing my lash glue and I didn't realize that till I was putting my lashes on. And this old lash glue I used instead is pretty much dry, so hopefully nothing flies off while I'm talking. That is 5 looks using this palette. I do really hope you enjoyed it. So far, my wear time with the shades I was able to wear test they all wore really well. Now, I wasn't able to wear test every single shade in this palette because I had occasions where I was filming really late at night, but I did have a couple instances where I thought I was going to be able to go to bed, but then I ended up having a lot to do. Like I had to I had to stay up extra late because of the fact that it was like lime silver dip night or something like that, and so I had a lot of cleaning to do, and so in those instances I was still wearing this eyeshadow for another like 6 hours beyond what I was supposed to because I didn't get to bed till 3:30 a.m. or something. And the eyeshadow wore just fine. And this was with me like sweating because I'm trying to like wrestle with all these cats. So I think that does speak well for this palette. Again though, I do have dry eyelids and I'm wear testing these at home. And it's winter, so it's not super humid outside, so make of that what you will. Overall, I do think a lot of these shades were really pretty. I think my only real criticism would be Abundant over here. Abundant kind of has the shifts that remind me a little bit of Patina from Cleona, but because it is so rough in texture, it kind of can tend to look really patchy as opposed to looking textured. Like I notice when these really dark based shifting multi-chromes have a lot of thicker flaky texture to them, it's really easy for them to accidentally end up looking patchy because of the fact that the base is so dark. So anywhere where there's no dark base where it skips over because of the gap between the flakes, it's gonna look patchy. So that was kind of my only criticism of this palette, would be shades like that, but thankfully Strong and Healed are both really smooth. So you can see that there is no patching issues with Strong. Super pretty. I definitely prefer this much over Lightworks 4. I really do regret skipping out on Lightworks 3. I think I would have loved that one way more than 4. So I hope that these looks were able to give you some kind of inspiration. I guess my only last thing to stick in this video before I end it is I do think the top row is a little bit boring, but also kind of necessary because there are matching inner corner and highlighting and top ray shades for all of the other shades in this palette. So the top row probably was the most boring row to me, but as you can see in this video, it did end up being a really important staple row for me to pull my looks together. So for my blush, I wanted to test out using purple and lavender blush. It didn't work out super well at first, but I was able to use setting powder to kind of tone it down. I first went in with Crazy in Love. This is the Too Faced Love Flush Watercolor Blush, which I don't think is available anymore. It was like not ever released in the USA either, so really confusing. I'm not sure where you'd get a hold of this, but I used this first. It's a really odd pinky purple color, not my favorite kind of pinky purple color, which is why I never got the purple one from House Labs. And then to kind of gradient and kind of go around all of that, I am testing this new Holika blush in the shade Clean Lavender. I think it's okay. It's working well so far. I only spent like $3 on this, so if it doesn't work out, I'm not complaining. And then for my contour and bronzer slash, well, I did like contour slash bronzer. I mixed these two shades from the Symphony Contour Trio, so I mixed the darkest two shades in here. This is the lightest shade of that. I just mixed those two. I've noticed when I use lavender blush, I really need to have a strong bronzer slash contour in the back. That's why it's a little bit heavier than normal. And then for my highlighter, I picked a cooler toned highlighter. As you can see, I used the Becca Pure Pearl. It's one of the limited edition ones, and it's a slightly different formula than the powder highlighters. And then for my lipstick, I used Cool Rose Up from the Blur Fudge tint line. You can see it is just the perfect rose toned shade, but with a cool lean to it. It is the Blur Fudge tint line from Romand. It has such great nuance to it. I do really love it, so that's what I used today, along with some lip liner. So that's going to finish up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed 5 looks with Danessa Myricks Lightworks V. If you have any questions about anything, definitely you're welcome to ask. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope to catch you guys in the next one, and until then, take care. Bye-bye!